My sister secretly sold our mother's jewelry and said, "You always thought you deserved more, didn't you?" But when I saw what was missing, I knew she'd made a huge mistake. I'm 46 female and my sister Fiona is 42. We grew up in Rochester, New York, raised by a single mother, Eleanor, after our father walked out on us when we were kids. I've always felt a deep responsibility for our family, while Fiona was born with a taste for escape. Our mother was a proud woman. She held down 2 jobs, bought a small home she guarded like a treasure chest, and wore pearls to the grocery store. She didn't talk much about her past, but she had an ornate wooden jewelry box that she kept in the back of her closet, like a shrine. Inside were pieces collected across generations, a delicate sapphire brooch, Victorian rings, a few pieces from her travels, and one humble, dull-looking ring with a red stone that I never paid much attention to. After my divorce 2 years ago, I moved back in to help care for her. Dementia was stealing her from us little by little, and Fiona, who had moved to Manhattan years ago and was always too busy, rarely came home unless there was something to show off. That's the backdrop. Here's the meat of it. About a year ago, Mom took a bad fall. Nothing life-threatening, but it was enough to scare both of us. I moved in full-time, balancing caregiving with freelance work. Fiona showed up for a long weekend, all glossy and poised like a lifestyle influencer playing caretaker for content. She brought wine and a pair of overpriced scented candles and acted like she was making a sacrifice. The visit was mostly uneventful, though she kept asking strange questions about Mom's things. Has she thought about what happens to her stuff, and what's going to happen to the house? I chalked it up to her usual self-interest. Then, one evening, I caught her in Mom's bedroom going through the closet. She laughed it off, saying she was feeling nostalgic and looking for old Polaroids. I didn't push back, though I should have. Something about her smile felt rehearsed, like she was already writing the script for a version of this moment she could live with. A few weeks after she left, I went to check the jewelry box. The first thing I noticed was the absence of the emerald ring. Then the brooch. Then the necklace. Piece by piece, everything valuable was gone. Except the cheap stuff, odd earrings, plastic bangles, tarnished silver. All left behind like set dressing. I felt this pressure in my chest, like gravity had doubled in the room. I'd been keeping a casual inventory for over a year. Just photos on my phone and a few notes in a binder. It wasn't formal, but it was proof. I called Fiona. No answer. I texted. Days passed. Then a single voice message came in. I remember standing in the kitchen, phone to my ear, dish towel in hand. "You always thought you deserved more, didn't you?" she said. Calm, like she was reading from a script. "You got the house, you got Mom. I took what was mine. Don't act so righteous." And just like that, she'd made it clear. She believed what she did was fair. My hands were shaking. I felt like someone had kicked over a part of me I'd spent decades building up. But I still didn't react. Not right away. I told myself it wasn't worth starting a war over. She'd always been reckless. I wasn't going to fix her. I had enough on my plate. But then something tugged at the back of my mind. The ring. That old, dull red ring I had never thought much about. I flipped back through my inventory and zoomed in on a photo I'd taken a year ago. It was there, sitting at the corner of the box. A thin band with a single red stone. She'd taken that too. And suddenly I remembered a story Mom had told me once, years ago, maybe 10 or more. We were sitting in the garden. It was late afternoon, and she'd had a glass of wine, which always loosened her tongue. She pointed to the ring and said, "That one's the real treasure. Came from my grandmother's sister, smuggled out of Burma during the war. They thought it was fake, so it made it through customs." She'd laughed, and I'd laughed too, assuming it was just another one of her dramatic family tales. But now, I wasn't so sure. So I started digging. I took the photo and the description to a local jeweler who specialized in estate pieces. He confirmed it wasn't just a ruby, it was a Burmese ruby, Probably untreated, and if it was over 2 carats, which he guessed it might be, it could be worth upwards of $70,000 depending on clarity and setting. Maybe more if it had provenance. My knees nearly gave out. She'd sold it. Probably for a pittance, thinking it was glass. I was furious, but more than that, I felt a strange kind of grief. That ring wasn't just valuable. It was a link. A tether to a history we barely understood. And now it was in the hands of some stranger because my sister had decided she was entitled. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Mara, and she was expensive but professional. Within a week, she traced the sale of several pieces of Mom's jewelry to a boutique in Soho. Fiona had used her real name. The brooch had already been resold. The ring? It had passed through a private auction, listed as vintage costume jewelry, possible garnet. Sold for $900. $900. It was like selling a Picasso at a garage sale. When I told Mara what I knew about the ring, she nearly choked. We dug deeper, and with the help of some legal pressure and a very sympathetic estate lawyer I knew, we got in touch with the buyer. He was a collector in New Jersey, and after a long and painfully expensive negotiation, I bought the ring back. I drained my savings to do it. But I got it. I keep it in a safety deposit box now, under my name, with documents to prove its history and chain of possession. I didn't tell Fiona. Not right away. I wanted her to stew in the lie a little longer. But now I'm at a crossroads. I have a folder full of evidence, voice recordings, sale records, appraisal notes. I could expose her. I could take her to court for elder theft, for fraud. I could make sure she never does this to anyone else. And God knows she deserves it. But she's my sister. And there's still a part of me, some loyal, naive thread, that remembers playing dress-up with her in Mom's old scarves and heels. That remembers sneaking into the pantry for cookie dough and swearing we'd never let anyone come between us. That part of me is still trying to figure out, do I burn this bridge down, or do I let it rot quietly? I've been sitting on this decision for weeks. What would you do? I didn't reach out to Fiona right away. Instead, I did something small, but symbolic. I wore the ruby ring to our cousin Merle's memorial service. Merle had passed unexpectedly, and despite our family's web of drama and disconnection, Fiona showed up. She swept in late, dressed in her usual understated designer black and heels too high for a cemetery, offering hugs that didn't linger and condolences that never quite reached her eyes. She didn't notice the ring at first. But when we stood together in the line outside the reception hall afterward, clutching styrofoam cups of weak church coffee, I saw her glance down. Just a flicker. Her gaze landed on my hand, lingered for 2 seconds longer than casual, then flitted away. Not a word. She knew. But I didn't speak either. I just sipped my coffee and kept my eyes on the doorway, pretending I didn't see the way her jaw tensed or the slight tremble in her hand as she picked at a corner of her napkin. That moment, silent and heavy, told me everything. She realized the ring wasn't gone. She knew I had it. And she knew what that meant. Still, she said nothing. The following week, she texted me for the first time in months. Can we talk? No punctuation. No apology. No context. Just that. I ignored it at first. I wasn't ready. Or maybe I just didn't want to be the one who opened the door this time. I'd done that my entire life, picked up the pieces, smoothed things over, let her rewrite history so she could sleep at night. This time, I needed her to come to me with honesty, not strategy. A few days later, she showed up unannounced at Mom's house. She didn't knock right away. I saw her through the window, standing at the front step in a camel trench coat, holding her phone like a shield. Her eyes were scanning the porch railings like they held answers. I opened the door and stepped out before she could knock. I don't want a performance, I said quietly. She hesitated, then nodded. I'm not here to perform. We stood in silence for a moment. The wind tugged at her coat. She looked older than I remembered. Or maybe just smaller. I know you have it, she said eventually. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Her voice was shaky. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was worthless. Just junk. It wasn't, I said. You didn't ask. I didn't think I had to. That part made me laugh, sharp, bitter. Of course you didn't. She flinched, then stepped forward, her voice low and quick like she was trying to get it all out before she lost her nerve. I was desperate, okay? Chase was pulling back from the wedding, the apartment lease was ending, and I don't know, I thought Mom wouldn't miss it. That you had everything covered. You always do. And you thought I wouldn't notice, I said. I didn't think you'd care about old jewelry. You think this is about jewelry? She looked away, blinking fast. Her nose was red from the wind. I almost pitied her. Almost. She opened her mouth to say something else but stopped herself. I crossed my arms. Do you want to come in? She hesitated. Only if we can talk like people. Not enemies. That surprised me more than I care to admit. So I stepped aside and let her in. Inside, the house still smelled faintly of lavender and dish soap. Mom had been gone for nearly 6 months now, but I kept everything clean, quiet, and still. Like she might walk in from the garden any minute, humming and muttering about squirrels. Fiona sat on the couch without being asked. She glanced around, and I watched her eyes land on the shelf where Mom's photo sat in a silver frame, our mother in her 20s, standing on a beach in a polka dot dress, laughing with her mouth wide open. She looked away quickly. I know I can't fix it, she said. But I want to. I don't know. Make it right, somehow. I leaned against the doorway. Do you even know what that means? I'll pay you back, she said. For the ring. The other pieces. I don't have it now, but I can, I cut her off. It's not about money, Fiona. It never was. She rubbed her forehead, exasperated. Then what do you want from me? An apology. A real one. Not because you got caught. Because you hurt me. And you hurt her. She blinked hard, jaw clenched. I was scared, she said finally. Everything was falling apart. I didn't know what to do. And you always had it together. You had Mom, the house, your crap little liars. I felt like I was drowning. And so you stole from her? Her eyes welled. I didn't think of it like that at the time. Then maybe that's your problem. We sat in silence for a long while. Eventually, she asked to see the ring. I took it from the drawer in the study and handed it to her. She turned it in her hand, slowly, like she was holding something alive. She always wore it when she cooked, she whispered. Remember? She'd take it off and set it on the windowsill next to the sink. I nodded. I remember. She handed it back to me, her hand trembling. I didn't deserve it, she said. But I didn't want you to have it either. The honesty in that one sentence hit me harder than anything else she'd said. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't even envy. It was the aching, bitter fear of being left out. Of being the child who didn't get picked. She stood to leave, slowly. I'm sorry, she said. I know it's not enough. She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob. Do you think she knew? She asked, not looking back. No, I said. And thank God she didn't. She nodded, then left. The door clicked shut behind her. And I stood there for a long time, the ring still warm in my palm, wondering how much history could be rewritten in a single conversation, and how much couldn't. For the rest of that evening, I couldn't sit still. I kept turning that ring over in my fingers, remembering how Mom used to hum old jazz songs while peeling carrots, the ring catching flecks of light as she moved. Fiona had been right about one thing, she wore it almost every day, even when she was just going to the post office or pruning the rose bushes. It wasn't just valuable because of what it was. It was valuable because she touched it so often, like it was part of her. A quiet anchor. I didn't know what to do with the conversation we'd had. Fiona had said she was sorry. And maybe she meant it. But the damage had already been done, and her words felt less like repair and more like recognition that there was no bridge left to mend. Still, for the next few days, I found myself thinking about her text. "Can we talk?" It echoed like a leftover cough in a quiet room. Too late, but not completely empty. Like a piece of driftwood floating long after the ship sank. Then came the letter. A plain envelope, hand-delivered to the mailbox. Inside was a single sheet of paper, no return address, no greeting, no closing. It said, "I made a list of everything I sold. I'll send what I made. I don't know if it helps, but I wanted you to know I wasn't lying. I really didn't know about the ring. I'd take it back if I could. I'm sorry." Taped to the back was a receipt summary, handwritten. Boutique names, auction dates, rough sale prices. Most items were listed far below their value. The brooch, for example, Mom's favorite, had been sold for less than $1,200. I sat at the kitchen table for over an hour just staring at it. I couldn't decide if it was an attempt at closure or a new kind of manipulation. It didn't matter, really. I had the ring. The rest? I'd long since assumed they were gone for good. Still, part of me, some quiet, reluctant part, felt something soft beneath the cynicism. Regret. Real or not, it was there in the margins of her handwriting. The letters weren't neat. They weren't planned. And for Fiona, that meant something. I didn't respond. Not immediately. Instead, I buried myself in work. I took on more freelance clients, helped clean out Mom's attic, and started preparing the house for winter. Fiona didn't message again. She didn't call. Weeks passed. Then, one Sunday morning, I got a text from my cousin Joanne. "Hey. Just a heads up. Fiona's staying with me for a few days. She's not doing great." Joanne lived about 20 minutes away in Irondequoit. She and Fiona had been close once, back when we were kids, used to ride bikes to the corner store and spend all summer playing dress-up in old coats from Joanne's mom's closet. But they'd grown apart, like most cousins do. I was surprised she'd taken Fiona in. Curious, I asked, "What do you mean not doing great?" She replied, "She lost her place in the city. Chase finally called off the engagement. Some debt stuff. It's a mess. She's a mess. It shouldn't have made me feel anything. Fiona had made her choices. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something twist in my stomach when I read those words." Joanne added, "She asked about you." I didn't say much. Just thought you should know. That afternoon, I pulled out an old photo album. I hadn't looked at those pictures in years. Mom, in her early 40s, hair in soft curls, arms around both of us on the front porch. Fiona, missing a front tooth, holding a fistful of dandelions. Me, taller and already weary-looking, as if I could see where we were headed even back then. There have been good moments. It wasn't all resentment and rivalry. There had been birthdays and late-night movies and the three of us eating popcorn in our pajamas, legs tangled on the couch. But memory is a tricky thing. It's like a mirror warped by time and emotion, sometimes flattering, sometimes cruel. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying Fiona's voice from that message. "You always thought you deserved more, didn't you?" I'd never been able to decide if it was meant as accusation or confession. Maybe both. About a week later, I ran into Fiona again, unexpectedly this time. I'd stopped by the Wegmans near Joanne's place, picking up supplies for a small dinner I was hosting. As I pushed my cart down the bread aisle, I saw her, shoulders slouched, no makeup, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She was staring blankly at the deli case. She didn't see me at first. I could have walked away. Part of me wanted to. But I didn't. I cleared my throat gently. "Hey. She turned, startled. When she saw me, she looked scared. Like a kid caught sneaking out. I gave her a tired smile. Are you eating enough? She blinked fast, like she was trying not to cry. I'm trying. We didn't say much after that. Just stood there, awkwardly surrounded by half-priced baguettes and refrigerated turkey. Eventually, I nodded toward the checkout. I should get going. Okay, she said, almost whispering. Then added, Clarissa? Yeah? I really am sorry. This time, her voice cracked. I didn't respond. Just nodded and walked away. I don't know what that moment meant. I don't know if it was the beginning of something new or just a brief spark before everything dims again. But I do know that when I got home, I placed the ruby ring back in the velvet-lined box and closed the lid slowly. I didn't lock it away this time. I left it on the table, in plain view. Just there. Waiting. I didn't hear from Fiona for another few weeks after that run-in at Wegmans. It was strange, the silence. Not exactly peaceful, but not tense either. More like waiting for something to settle at the bottom of a still pond. Part of me assumed she'd drift back to New York, cling to the ruins of her lifestyle, or resurface only when she needed something. Instead, I got a call from a lawyer. Not mine. Hers. He was polite, firm-voiced, and explained that Fiona was willing to arrange restitution for the jewelry taken, especially the ruby ring. Apparently, she had learned from a mutual acquaintance, which I assumed was Joanne, that I'd reacquired it, and now, her lawyer said, she hoped to come to an amicable resolution before legal steps were necessary. That's when I realized what this was. She thought I was bluffing. She thought I wouldn't take it further, and wouldn't damage what little was left of our relationship by dragging her name through court. But more than that, I saw something else. She was worried. Not just about the money. About the story. Fiona had built her identity around success, image, and grace under pressure. She networked. She curated. She survived on the perception that she came from a respectable, refined family with good values. The truth, that she had stolen from her own mother during a period of cognitive decline, then mocked her sister for noticing, would be a far greater cost than anything financial. And now, I have evidence. Receipts. A recorded voicemail. A signed statement from the estate jeweler confirming the sale. The only thing I hadn't done yet was press charges. So I sat with that power for a while. And then I came up with something better than court. Something instructive. I called Fiona directly the next morning. She answered like she hadn't been pacing around waiting for me to do just that. Clarissa, she said, voice light, cautious. Hi. I got your lawyer's message. She paused. Okay. And? I'm not taking the money. Silence. I let that sit. Instead, I continued, you're going to make a public donation in Mom's name. What? You're going to donate $10,000 to the Finger Lakes Elder Care Foundation. Under Eleanor Rowe's name. And you're going to make sure it gets picked up in the local paper. There's a fund they're starting for vulnerable seniors. You'll give a quote. Something about how your mother taught you the importance of dignity in aging. Clarissa, not finished. She went quiet. You're also going to sign a legal statement acknowledging the jewelry was removed without consent, and that the ring was sold under false assumptions. I won't take you to court, but I want it in writing. If this ever happens again, to anyone, I want something that shows a pattern. She let out a dry, shaky laugh. You want to ruin me? No, I said calmly. If I wanted to ruin you, I'd have already posted that voicemail online and sent it to every client you've ever pitched wellness branding to. More silence. Clarissa, she said, voice flat now, this isn't you. You never knew me, I said. You knew the version of me who cleaned up after you. She didn't argue. A week later, the donation appeared on the foundation's website, in honor of Eleanor Rowe, advocate for family, grace, and independence. There was a photo of Fiona handing a ceremonial check to the director, eyes bright, smile forced. The caption included her quote, "My mother believed deeply in dignity for seniors. I'm honored to give back in her memory." The local paper picked it up. The donation was praised. Fiona reposted it online, pretending it was from her own goodwill. I let her. Because I knew what I had. 3 days later, I got a copy of the signed admission via certified mail. A simple document, notarized, stating the full truth, that she had entered the home, taken the items without consent, and resold them. That she regretted it. That she relinquished any claim to the ruby ring and acknowledged the items were not hers to take. I had it filed away. Safe. Like a shield. Months passed. Fiona stayed quiet after that. She didn't reach out, didn't try to spin things. Word trickled back through Joanne that she'd moved into a smaller apartment in New Jersey and was rebranding herself as a personal growth strategist. Sometimes, when I was feeling bitter, I'd look at her website. There were still photos of her smiling in high-rise lounges and quotes about aligning with your truth. But I knew what it had cost her to keep that smile intact. And I knew that behind the scenes, she was dancing on the edge of exposure. It wasn't vengeance, exactly. It was clear. And peace. Because every time I walked past the jewelry box now, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel robbed. I felt settled. The ring was mine again. The memory was mine again. My mother's trust, however damaged, was safe again. And Fiona? Well, she finally paid for what she did. Not in dollars. In dignity. And I think that's worth more than she ever knew.